Here we go.
You're recording, got it.
Yes. There we go. You hear me?
Yep, I hear you well.
Nice. Okay. Turn on your camera if you want.
See you.
Hello. There we go.
There we go. All right, we're in business. Let's go.
Nice to connect with me, Emilio. I really appreciate the time.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Between your rehab and eating ice cream and pizza, I do remember that's your favorite thing. I just wanted you to have a little chat with you today about different things. Let me introduce you first. Correct me whenever if I'm wrong. I know you as a friend to begin with, a friend who has a great experience in different areas in life, including finance, marketing, consulting. You had your consulting firm. And you met me when I was at my lowest level physically and mentally. Oh, and I of course forgot to mention that you are an athlete. That's a very important part into today's discussion. You had the generosity to take me under your wing right before the pandemic. When I heard you were cycling indoor, I did everything I could to convince you to get a real bike, if I could call it like that. Because I got mine. I was part of these who got a bike at the first or second week of the pandemic or right before the pandemic, so we could ride together.
Well, you were lucky. I mean, I think the point was is that you got your bike and then you needed somebody to ride with. So then you were working hard to get me to get a bike.
Yes, it was purely, my intentions were purely selfish because I needed motivation to go cycle. And it's New York and it's cold. Even if the weather was getting better, I need some help. But I was telling myself, like it's not that selfish because that's one of your passions. And apparently, what you were telling me is that you were good at it. I couldn't help but thinking like, oh my God, poor Emilio, I kind of feel bad. He has no idea what he's getting into, like he's going to struggle keeping up with me. I need motivation and he helps me, but I know he's going to struggle. What I didn't know is how bad I was out of shape. That's one. I had no idea I was this bad in shape. Most importantly, how much of a great athlete you actually are.
Crazy athlete.
Like what? Lazy athlete?
Crazy.
Crazy athlete. Yeah, I not lazy athlete. Crazy athlete. Like assassin level athlete. Matter of fact, you murder everyone that cross your path. That's pretty much your level. We started at Prospect Park in Brooklyn. I know I put a picture, I was going to say of Brooklyn, but it's actually a picture from Brooklyn of the Brooklyn Bridge. No, we crossed way too many bridges in Brooklyn, and that was tough. That's the only thing I could say. We were uphill up Prospect Park. For those who don't know, Prospect Park is a 3.1, 3.2 mile loop, and it's much of a downhill, of a fast, strong downhill to go back slowly uphill and then a huge uphill and repeat and repeat and repeat. So we started uphill. So on the downhill, my confidence was very inflated, like my head was going to explode. I could keep up with you. You were behind me, I'm pretty sure, because you're a professional, so you don't spend all your energy in a simple downhill. And then the little uphill slope starts coming up. And I remember I was like giving everything I could. I gave everything I could. And you were just chilling next to me. And then there was the serious uphill. You know what uphill I'm talking about.
I do.
And you just took off, but you had the decency, the respect to stay kind of close to me. And I was dying. I was literally dying, keeping everything I could. I didn't understand why I could not get faster. I was trying to stand on the bike. It didn't work. Every single trick I could. I changed all the gears. It didn't work. It didn't work. You had not broken a sweat. You were waiting for me. You look like you were waiting for me. It was saying on your face the calm of I'm a serious power rider. And I told myself, oh my God.
Well,
So,
you got to remember that I've done that loop multiple times more than you had. So I knew what was coming, and I knew how to take advantage of the downhill and then turn it into real power going back uphill.
100%.
So,
100%. And me, I remember that, and I was
well,
trying to
that was
stop.
also way too early in the morning for you, and I usually rode at 6:30 in the morning every morning.
Yeah, you do.
So,
You do. I didn't know that. So I thought I was just needed to get warmed up a little more.
we warmed you up.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I rode better inside because I used to race inside before, it was popular with Peloton. My gym had indoor racing, so
Okay. Yes.
I was already
How's that?
prepared. I was prepared that way to be in decent shape to go outside and ride. And we also knew most of the riders indoor knew that the indoor riders, in a lot of ways, were sometimes stronger than the outdoor riders. So I was not terribly afraid of riding outside. And I wasn't going to ride outside until a friend, an indoor friend, said to me, "Why don't you just borrow my bike? It's just sitting in the apartment, not doing anything. Go to the apartment, pick up my bike, and you use it." So I went to his apartment, picked up his bike, and then put on 1,600 miles on his bike during the pandemic. He had to do
Okay.
2 tune-ups and a new set of tires, but it was great. Then I rode with you, although I couldn't get you to get up early to ride at 7:30 in the morning. And then I rode with my regular racing partner, who we rode every morning at 6:30 in the morning. And we would do 40 miles during the week and 100 miles on the weekends, each weekend day. So we were doing whatever that is, 200 and nearly 300 miles a week we were riding.
You were riding 200. I was not. Was I riding 200?
No, you weren't.
No, I was riding
You would ride occasionally with us on a Sunday,
yeah.
and that was just so that we could watch you be in pain and complain as we were getting closer to 100 miles.
Thank you. I appreciate.
And didn't once we went and rode up to the Mario Cuomo Bridge, or up to the bridge and then back down.
Mm-hmm.
We took a group of 5 guys up to the bridge.
Oh, I was here.
We were there, and they were mostly all good riders, so it was scary for everybody. But we did stop for coffee and a muffin early in the morning, so you didn't complain about that.
No, I did not complain about the muffin and coffee, and I'm pretty sure I had something else, but that was not enough. I had to. I think I had to stop again. I remember at some point I was hoping for my tire to explode so I could call a cab, but I survived.
Yeah, you did. We all survived that ride. The funny part is that Albert, one of the partners, he did that ride a different day, and he crashed, broke his collarbone, and
shoot.
was
Absolutely.
he didn't ride for a couple of months because of that. He's much better now. And he crashed right after I crashed and right after I got sick. So, he got back into shape and was riding, before I could get back riding. And now that's all I'm trying to do is get back riding. And we didn't even scare you off going downhill at 55 miles an hour.
Yeah, no, no, no. Oh yeah, second lap of Prospect Park. I really thought I needed a little more time to warm up. Everything was just worst. I remember I was looking at my gears because I was like that and I was trying to shift more and I was telling myself my new back doesn't work. It can't access the shifts that I need. Fast forward, I died. I called an Uber to come home. I did. Right before leaving, you gave me a little advice as you told me, drink water, eat
Oh, that's right. You
something.
didn't eat or drink before you went out to ride.
No, I did not.
Oh yeah,
And
you had no fuel to start the ride with. So
I was lacking a little fuel. Even if I had a nice breakfast, I don't think honestly I would have done something much better. And so you told me eat, take a shower, and then relax, go on with your day. And first thing first, I still had my cycling gears. I was sweaty. I collapsed on the bed and I fell asleep. I forgot what time I was starting back then, 8 or 9 a.m. So it was still somewhat early. We were in the lockdown back then. We were in the lockdown, work from home. Like 3 hours later, I wake up and that's my boss calling me. That was a shock, to witness the level that you are, and it was amazing. And it was a shock for me to see the level that I was. That was also a shock.
well, everybody needs to get beat up a bit before they go
Yes.
back and start training again.
Yes, and to realize, like, no wonder I needed motivation to work out, to train. No wonder I was so out of shape. I was so unmotivated because in my mind I thought I was capable of doing some things, and that I was actually completely incapable. And this was the beginning of my journey to get back on track, to get my life back, to be able to manage my life. On that one, no thank you, but a huge thank you.
Everybody needs a good kick in the butt to get them going.
I agree. Kick my butt first, okay? Enough speaking about me and how we met, even if for me it represents a lot. The story short is that we ended up riding to the Rockaways, doing 50 miles, maybe 55, crossing what I call those death bridges with so much wind and never stops, and it's so narrow.
I didn't even take you on the scary bridge.
You didn't take me on the scary bridge?
No, because there was cars on that bridge.
Oh, no,
And so that one was a little bit more scary, and you had to go across 2 lanes of traffic to keep going.
Yeah.
We didn't do that bridge.
Thank God.
No, we didn't do that one because that was the 140-mile trip that you didn't go on.
I'm not there yet. I've learned to get over my fears to not be able to finish something that I start, to disappoint myself, fear to be a failure to you. I so learned to accept my actual limits. My limits were what they were. I learned how to surpass them, but to surpass my limits, I had to learn what they are and to accept them for what they are. And mostly I stopped complaining and whining. I mean, that one is not really true, but pretty much no more why the world does this to me and why me, blah, blah, blah. No more self-pity parties that were actually so detrimental to my own self-esteem. Again, thank you for being here, remembering those moments that we had together. I'm very
I
grateful.
didn't even make a big deal when you were late one morning to come to the ride.
Oh, yeah. I remember. I did think sometimes you would actually like, push me in the bush or something like that, like as a revenge.
Or in the lake.
You could have. And so now let me ask you, let's go back to you, to your origins. I want to ask you, first of all, who are you? How would you describe the man that you were versus the man that you are today? Passions, family, cycling, whatever is in your mind.
So before, I started as a very amateur athlete, played a lot of church league basketball, played with friends, occasionally running when I was injured to try and get back in shape, especially when we were going to play on a team in New Mexico where the altitude was 5,000 feet. So I had to start running just to be in shape to be able to play. So I started to learn how to do that. Then I decided one morning I was going to ride. I wanted to ride my bike, so I got my old bike out and started riding that, and then decided I needed a new bike because the old one wasn't good enough, and then ended up getting a very, I guess at that time it was kind of a very easy racing bike, a Trek 2300.
On the indoor track?
No, not on the indoor track. I didn't buy an indoor bike.
Okay.
I just used the one from the gym for the indoor bike. But the indoor, so at my gym, they had connected all the indoor cycles. So the spin class ended up, for the most part, become a racing class. Eventually, there were probably 5 to 10 of us in New York City who were quite competitive and then got quite good at racing. And we do it every Saturday, Sunday. We were racing probably 6 days a week.
The race were indoors, this one?
Yeah, all the races were indoors.
Nice.
But very different because you could do stuff on an indoor bike that you can't really do on an outdoor bike easily. So, I became a bit more competitive, got in a better shape. And then the pandemic, I borrowed the guy's bike. And then I started, and the reason for borrowing his bike was to figure out if I liked riding in the city. And I figured out that there were plenty of places that I could ride in the city that were not very dangerous. So
yeah, I got hit by 2 cars myself in the city.
That's because you rode dangerously.
Thank you. It's my fault.
That used to scare me.
No, it's the only times I passed you was in a downhill and I had more speed than you. That's all.
Right, and you made noise and it scared me.
No, sorry.
It's all right. I didn't fall and you didn't fall. That was the important thing.
Very true.
So I got my riding motivation from starting to ride with you, and then I started to ride right by my house in Brooklyn, and then eventually, with the help of Strava, found another guy who was riding the same routes as me. So we decided to meet one morning using Strava to start riding together. And he and I became regular riding partners that we would ride every morning at 6:30 in the morning and do all that riding. And the unwritten rule was you don't cancel out of an early morning ride because the other guy had to get up early to just in case. So you had to go and ride, and that was how we thought about it and how we rode every morning.
Wow. But I know you already had your competitive.
Yeah, I already had my competitive streak.
You needed someone to keep you motivated.
Yeah, I needed someone that was just as crazy as me, that would ride not necessarily dangerously, but a lot every week, that was competitive and not enough, but not too competitive that we were going to either get hurt or be exhausted. but we were always tired, but never dangerous. And then we slowly added miles so that we were riding 100. I would search for the new routes and test the routes out so that I could say, well, here's where the bumps are, here's where the cracks in the pavement are, here are the dangerous parts of riding the bridge in Brooklyn, and crossing streets in Brooklyn. And we just kept riding. It was, there was no real racing, but it was just that we rode every day. And, anybody who's ridden in Prospect Park knows that there's probably 50 cyclists every morning who are riding the same 3.25-mile loop, going downhill and then uphill again, and downhill at 34 miles an hour, uphill at 25, and then slowly riding home.
I could barely go at 25 on flat, so not bad at all. So you were a great athlete, amazing competitive mentality, great endurance. Unfortunately, you moved out of New York City and then something happened. Do you feel like talking about it?
Sure. This sort of ended my, I won't say competitive cycling, but my daily cycling routine. I was out cycling one morning, and that day I had 2 strokes, a minor one as I was riding and crashed my bike, and then the second bigger one at night that has damaged my left arm and has done some damage to my left side in general. So I don't have the same abilities as I did before. I can't balance. I don't have the left arm strength to hold the bike at this point. I can barely get on a stationary bike, but I can, and I have, but it's just a challenge. And eventually, my goal is to ride again outside with my friend, and we talk usually 4 or 5 times a week. And he reminds me what my goal is. My goal is to ride with him one day. He will fly down to beautiful Savannah where we moved because it was warmer. We could get a bigger place than in New York for the same amount of money, and I wouldn't lose 5 days of riding every year because of the weather. Figuring out how to get back in shape, how to get enough, be recovered enough that I can sit on a bike, that I can get even on a Peloton or a stationary bike.
So would you say you still have the same mental strength to keep going? Is this because you have a goal to get back on the bike?
Well, I think part of it is, as one of the things that I was in between was a marathon racer too, or runner. Mm-hmm. So I used to race half marathons, full marathons, 5Ks and 10Ks. I've won a few 5Ks. I was 8th in a half marathon in New York City. Yeah, I am a bit competitive. I didn't lose any of that. I know that I can't do it because I don't have the physical capabilities of doing much of that right now. And that's part of my rehabilitation, is to get back to the point where I can start thinking about doing some of that stuff again. Although I don't think I want to run again. I just want to ride again.
Okay, that's a good goal. So how do you feel today? Physically?
How do I feel today? Today I feel okay. No worse than yesterday. But today's a new day. This morning was another morning. So I'm just grateful that I woke up this morning. There was no dirt on my face. I was above the ground. I was not below the ground. And I have a day to work at recovering and figuring out what else I can be passionate about. That's probably the big thing, is now finding new passions that keep me motivated so that mentally I'm capable of doing that.
Those are the improvements from a year ago.
Yes, those are the improvements from a year ago. So that's the big thing is being not depressed, figuring out when depression is hitting, and then quickly clawing my way out of it.
Okay.
My doctors, my therapists, and figure out how to get there and what physically. One of the things I had to learn how to do, again, I didn't think I was going to have to learn how to do this for this, was figure out what was wrong with me.
Okay.
So I could tell whether or not the therapists and the doctors were working on the right thing.
Okay. So that's what you learn about yourself, is to learn what's wrong.
Learn how to recover, how to get better, how to start to survive a serious illness. Although the injury itself was not serious, but the illness, the recovering from the stroke, was serious enough. And one morning I woke up and I said, "Oh, I got to ask the therapist, what are they treating? Because I think they're treating the wrong thing." I said, "What are you treating? Are you treating the stroke? Or are you treating the nerve injury in my shoulder?" They go, "Oh, well, we're treating the stroke." I go, "Well, how are we going to figure out how bad my nerves in my shoulder are so we can think about doing that?" And, that took a neurosurgeon to start doing some tests. And I slowly increased my knowledge of the mechanics of my body. So when I did go to the doctor, I could explain to him exactly what was going on and what I was feeling, so that he knew what he had to treat, so that he wasn't just guessing at what was wrong. He actually knew, because I could tell him and explain it to him what was hurting, why did it hurt, where did it hurt, when did it hurt. Then I learned also to not necessarily agree with everybody, because I think once you get to you have a serious injury or a serious medical issue, if you don't start, it's not treating yourself, but learning enough about your body so that you can tell whether your therapy or what they're doing to help you recover is the right thing or not, that you can help with that. Because without being able to do that, it's hard, it's painful to try and recover. And I changed therapists and what I was doing for therapy because I thought it hurt too much and it didn't make any sense to me. After surviving multiple physical injuries from being, an athlete, some of this stuff did not make sense to me. Why it should hurt so much to do this recovery. And how a lot of people actually don't know what an athlete goes through. They just assume that, they like to say, well, no pain, no gain. Well, that's because they've heard that and they think that that's the only way. And that isn't the only way, because, pain is a danger sign from your body telling you that you're doing something that's probably not good for you. So, the doctors and the therapists that I liked and I started to listen to more were the ones that were athletes, who could then say, oh, yeah, I understand what you're saying there, then this is not right. That's wrong. You shouldn't have that kind of pain.
Did you have to let go anything?
I had to let go of some of what I was doing. The way my psychologist explained it, he goes, you're going to have to go through a grieving period. It's like having somebody die, except, what's dying is a part of your body. And that's what your problem is now. So as soon as you start grieving the loss of that ability and that part of your body, then you'll start to feel a little bit better. I did have to learn to start to accept limitations that I didn't believe that I had.
Okay. Which leads me to my next question. So, to be able to grieve, to be able to find the root to understanding what is your pain, your limits, what you want to work on. What are you doing mentally or physically?
So I do two things mentally. I do meditation. My business partner, our Chinese man, said what you should do is start to do meditation every day, and that will help you recover. Because then mentally you'll be able to start to come out of this and understand stuff. So I started doing that. And I also started taking recently a class called Trident that was developed by former Navy SEALs and endurance athletes. And it's all about mental toughness. Endurance athletes understand easily, which is when you start a marathon, the first thing you usually think about is, how am I going to get through 26 miles when you're standing at the starting line? And you're just shaking your head going, why am I doing this? It isn't until you get the first mile done or 2 miles done that, you start to go, all right, well, some of this is actually fun and you enjoy it. And that you also start to think about, all right, well, I had, just run, and to start to get through that length of competition or event, you have to break it up into much, much smaller pieces. So break the marathon up into single miles. I used to be amazed doing half marathons where at 6 miles I'd be going, wow, I feel really good now. And I had only done 6 miles, and I was like, oh, okay, I feel pretty good. That means another 6 miles I'll have my half marathon done, and then it's only about how fast I want to do it. So that's part of what I've done. And the same thing used to be with riding 100 miles. I knew where it was going to end, and I knew that, if I rode this far, so even in Prospect Park, it was like, all right, you're a quarter of my around the hill, so it's good. You know where you are, you know what's left, and you can go and do another. And then, you go and do, 2 laps or 3 laps or 4 laps, and then you go, all right, if I could do 4, I could do 5. Or if I could do 1, I could do, or 4, I could do 1 faster.
So rebounding on that, I want to ask you what advice to others who are fighting you would give to them, because you definitely know how to.
So it's all small steps now. It's starting to understand what your limitations are so that you're not overdoing it, and you can make your way through what you have to. And then physically understanding what do you have to do, like getting on a bike. For me, that's one of the biggest challenges right now, is learning the mechanics of getting on the bike, because I can't explain that to everybody. I can ask another cyclist, to help me get on a Peloton, but I can't ask just anybody, because they don't know how you put your feet on the pedals or in the cages. So it's about putting your feet in the right position and all of that. So part of that now is rethinking everything that you want to do. Is your objective attainable? And if you're anything like me, everything is attainable. It's just a matter of how much work it is to get there. So for me now, it's figuring out what therapy I need to do, what exercises I need to do so that I strengthen the right parts of my body. And that is a big part of what I do now. I have therapists today that understand specifically what my goals are, so that they start not just doing, standard exercises or strengthening that everybody uses, because it's a different objective that I have. than most everybody else. You know, they actually laugh at me when I go to the clinic. They go, "Oh, you're here again, and you've got another one of your crazy ideas." And one of the therapists said, "Well, you're a challenge. You
You're a challenger. Nothing's too crazy for you.
Nothing's too crazy, and the question is, how are you going to get there and to do it in a safe manner? Because part of the time it's like, all right, I want to walk without a walker, and the therapist will look at me and going, no, not yet. You're not ready for that yet. Okay, so then it's another objective that I had.
So step by step and understand.
Step by step. I have to do this step by step. So my cycling friend, he'll do this with me all the time. The other night I called him and we were chatting, and I said, I started thinking about skiing again, and what would be the limitations of skiing? And he goes, what are you doing? He goes, I don't want to hear you talking about that anymore. And I said, why? He goes, because you know what the goal is. The goal is for you to be riding with me again, not anything else. Get the first goal done. And then then we can talk about the others. Because he's taking it on himself to help me get through that and to keep me motivated to achieve the goal. That's hard for a lot of people to go through with you, is to keep you motivated in the proper way to achieve your goals, to be strong enough mentally yourself to achieve the goals. Whether it's, what it took to ride, 100 miles before, or run a half marathon, or win a 5K. You know what it was like. You know what you had to do. So now it's like, what do you got to do now to get through whatever injury or whatever it is? If you have an illness that is, that debilitating, then one of the questions is whatever the objective is something that you should be doing. In my mind, I'm still the same person. What I have to start to learn and understand is what I can't do and what's different now after the 2 strokes, and mentally what's different, what I can't do. So I don't do the same work anymore because it's too complicated. I can't do think about multiple things at the same time and think about complex problems. So it has to be very short and focused.
Okay.
For me.
Mm-hmm. I like that. With me who has ADD, it has to be short and focused as well. So I understand what you're saying actually helps me a lot. Yeah. So we also went through do you still have the same mental strength, the will to keep going?
I think that's one of the biggest things is to stay positive and not fall into depression. So that becomes, for anybody with a serious injury or illness, is to make sure that you figure out a way to not fall into serious depression, because otherwise you can't, it's not easy to recover then.
Yeah, depression is a topic that touches all of us, and
Yes.
it always strikes when you're not when you're expecting it the least. Again, you're helping me with these things,
So I do a couple of things. I have a list of people that I call regularly, usually at night. You're on that list.
Yeah, I know.
I have an evening list, I have an afternoon list, I have a morning list, and then I make sure that I just go through the list and then talk to everybody. One of the other things that I've done is my friends who take the most of my, the majority of my calls, they have now been adopted. So they are now my brothers, either little brother or big brother. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 of those now. and that's how we talk to each other. So, there's a certain respect there. This adds to it because we're now closer than we were before.
Okay, that's good. Getting closer to family.
Yeah, so that works really well.
Nice.
I've just made them all part of the family, and my sisters laugh at it because, like, oh yeah, we got 2 new brothers. Yeah.
Nice. So we also talked about what did you learn about yourself. I want to go straight to the point. I see for this last part, you put a piece of cloth on you. What is it? Can you show us a little bit? Turn the cam down a little bit.
So this is the pullover that you sent me, to do this interview with. That makes this, whole interview serious, because I had to think about, how to answer each of the questions. So I did a practice session with one of my brothers, and then you and I did a practice session, and then we're doing the real one now. So
to thank you for taking the time to answer my questions, because your answers helped me, and I hope they could help someone else as well, other people. I designed that little hoodie in organic cotton. So if you care about the environment, just know that it's organic, and I have a little design on top of it. We can't see it, unfortunately. The camera is a little too higher, but don't worry.
When I get the bigger one, because I can't exercise nearly as much, I've added some weight finally. After being in the hospital, I came out of the hospital, and I had lost a lot of weight, and slowly I've put back on some weight, and now there's stuff that I don't fit in anymore. So once I can start riding and exercising more, then everything will start to fit again.
My brand is inclusive. I'm an inclusive designer, and I have XS to double XL or triple XL, depending on the model. So I have I'll definitely find something where you fit in.
Well, I like that you're doing this whole thing. I've watched your podcasts, since you started doing it, and I find them interesting. First as your friend, but I have a friend who played professional soccer here in the US. He played professionally in Europe.
Okay.
So, and when we were growing up in high school, that was one of the things that in our little circle of friends, we would go to the library and find videotapes of soccer made in Germany, and we'd sit there. There'd be 3 or 4 of us sitting around the screen watching the games. I've seen my friend play. I've seen his father, who was also professional, play. I saw the 2 of them play together.
Mm-hmm.
On the same team, which was fun and exciting for both of them.
Nice. Okay, so any last advice to yourself, to your partner, to your family, to people struggling? Anything that comes to mind? Anything you would like to say? This is your moment. Freestyle.
So
and you complain. You can complain. I don't call you enough. That works too.
That's true. You don't call enough. You do have to figure out what your body is saying, so that when you explain to the doctor or the therapist what's wrong, you can be sure that what they're expecting or what they're treating is what you have. And most of the doctors that I have, I have 1, 2, 3, I think I have 4 surgeons right now. I have 2 orthopedic surgeons. I have 2 neurosurgeons. So when I go to see them, I do a lot of work so that I can explain how I'm feeling, what feels good, what feels bad, where is the pain, how does the pain feel, so they can understand what might be not broken, but where the damage is. In my case, it's shoulder ligaments and potentially inside the shoulder joint. So the more that I can explain to them the easier it is for them to figure out what to treat. With the therapist, I try and talk to the physical therapist about what am I trying to achieve physically so that strength training and exercises that we're doing will support that better.
Okay, it's pretty good.
And to know what your goals are. So I'll give you an example. So I was talking to my little brother the other night.
You can remove the sweater if you want to say.
No, it's fine. It's keeping me warm.
Okay.
So I was talking to him and I said to him, I said, I was thinking about skiing. And he goes, what? You're not supposed to be thinking about that. Your objective is cycling. And that's it. I don't want to hear you thinking about other stuff. So you stay with the goal. And the goal for you is cycling. So that this way you and I are cycling again. So my motivation, again, comes from, my friends, because they know me from the old days, and they know what will keep me motivated, and they're allowed to keep me on track. So I allowed them to not yell at me, but to, kind of nudge me back in the right direction, where it's sometimes hard for family and others to do that, because if you're an athlete, you're used to defining your own direction and what you want to do. So it's really, really hard. But with my little brother being an athlete too and a cyclist, we have a reason to be motivated. Talk about how we cycled together. And what did it mean when we could actually, if we sat together, we could probably tell you every bump in the road on our 100-mile ride, the danger points were, which was, important. But it keeps, staying focused on what your goal is and being clear on the goal and the small bits of the goal that need to get done so you can achieve the bigger part of the goal. Because it's not, if you say, well, are we going to ride 100 miles? Well, there's a lot of small steps to get from 0 to 100 miles, getting on the bike, balance, physical positions, strength in hands and arms and legs, so each one of those pieces has to be thought about, and basically it's that you just have to work through so that that you can do it. Because prior to actually being injured and sick, you would do that all automatically, which is one of the things that most people don't understand. Saying, all right, I'm going to get on the bike and I'm going to ride 100 miles today. They don't understand any of that, nor do they understand how to get on a bike and prepare for that. And like you had to learn eating properly so that you could ride that long ride and, pick up the speed and all of that, because you didn't eat when you first started. And I always had breakfast before I went out riding, and you didn't do that. And once you did, you started riding better, and you were a stronger rider.
That's true. I had too much fat to burn. That's why.
We all have a little bit of too much fat to burn.
Doesn't work that way, unfortunately.
Well, thank you so much for doing this. It forced me to think about, recovering and how to recover. And am I doing all the right stuff to recover?
Well, thank you. It's honestly, it's really interesting because you're going deeper in your recovery journey, and that definitely helped me to go deeper in mine, and I tend to make my own problem either bigger than they are or either way smaller than they are. And either or, it's not good, because then I don't get the appropriate care. And hearing you speak is definitely about finding the appropriate care, knowing who you are, accepting who you are, Thank you for that.
I'll send you the link to the mindset training. I've been doing on a regular basis. It's good because it's kind of, again, I wouldn't have thought about it quite the same way until I got this training that was done by Navy SEALs and some endurance athletes and business people who had to concentrate and work on hard projects and be able to be successful at. It's all basically the same. So whether it's a writing project, training for a marathon, it's all the same kind of process. So, what's interesting now, and I had to reinvent myself after the pandemic for work, and I found that was okay and an interesting exercise back during the pandemic, and then having this catastrophic illness. Then, one morning I woke up and was like, oh man, I got to do this rebuilding all over again. And I don't know how I'm going to do it. So then I saw, and I'll give credit to an interview that I saw on NBC News one morning. It was Apollo Ono, the gold medal speed skater, who was talking about how after the Olympics he had to rebuild himself to, have new goals and a new job now, because it's not like you can look around and find a want ad for a multi-gold medalist. But he had also learned same thing of mind strengthening and physically being able to do some very challenging work and athletics. So after listening to him speak in this interview and then reading the book that he wrote about reimagining what he was going to do, it gave me a little bit of confidence that I could do this one more time, and I could figure out what to do different this time that would work. And this time, it's I don't want a corporate job anymore. I was a COO of a multinational trading company, and I knew that I wasn't going to be able to do that again because of the complexity of thinking through all of the issues and managing the time. Because I used to work from I'd get up at 5 in the morning, starting my day before I went for a ride. And cycling was there to calm me and lower my anxiety. Oh. So now I had to do something that I would be mentally capable of doing. So I decided that I would start writing some fiction, which I've started. I've got a few friends who are helping me with it, nothing too challenging. One of them is going to be the editor of the book. One of them is the business manager. And I told them, I go, you got to be careful. You can't let me run all over you and tell you that this is the only way I'm going to do it. You have to be able to tell me that this is what you should think about this particular problem, and marketing and completing it and keep me on track, this was part of the reason why he became my little brother, because then it's like, okay, you're a little brother, I can listen to you. Now just help me through this. And that's pretty much what we've done. Most of my day is thinking about different sections of the book, and then eventually either late in the afternoon like now or in the evening do some actual writing. And then one of my friends, like I said, is going to edit it. One of them is a subject matter expert, so he will read it and say, no, that doesn't make any sense. So I've got people that are doing jobs around the project that are not impossible, but hopefully make the writing successful, which is mentally what I'm capable of doing at this point, and not overtax myself and still focus on recovering. mentally recovering and physically recovering.
Wow.
Whatever I was doing for people, I could be proud of the work that I did helping them.
I'll definitely send you a bigger size of the hoodie so you can give this one to whoever you want and or keep it and you can put it
I'll
on.
give it to Chris.
Yeah, give it to Chris. I'll put it on top of your head, like a turban.
Yeah, thank you for wanting me to do this. This was, like I said, very helpful to me too.
I'm glad. I hope it helped you as well. That's a very good very nice compliment for me to hear that I can help you with anything. Thank you again for everything. Thank you for our million of viewers that are learning, hopefully getting something good out of this from you. And we'll talk soon anyways, my friend, all right?
Okay, I'll talk to you the next few nights.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your day.
You too. Take care.
Bye.